I never thought at 65 years old, I, Martha Wilson, would be standing in an empty garage feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. The phone call came this morning from Charlie at Classic Auto. "Martha, someone just sold us Robert's Shelby GT500. I thought you should know. My son Tyler had taken my late husband's prized 1967 Shelby to fund his anniversary trip to Paris with Jessica. The car Robert spent a decade restoring. The car he made Tyler promise would stay in the family. The car that still held Robert's essence 3 years after cancer took him from us. If you're watching this story unfold, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Family betrayals like this leave wounds that take years to heal. If you've experienced something similar, please hit that subscribe button and join me as I share how this painful chapter of my life unfolded. Sometimes, the people we trust the most are capable of the deepest betrayals. To understand why that empty space in my garage felt like a second grave, you need to know what that car meant to our family. Robert wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He worked as a mechanical engineer, practical and methodical in everything he did. But that Shelby GT500 was his one extravagance, his dream that took 20 years to fulfill. He spotted the car in 1985, sitting forgotten in an elderly neighbor's barn. The old man had bought it new in '67, but couldn't drive it anymore after his stroke. Robert negotiated a fair price, and I remember him coming home with this rusted shell of a vehicle, eyes gleaming like he'd discovered buried treasure. "Martha, this isn't just a car," he told me that night. "It's American history. It's art. One day, it'll be worth something. But that's not why I bought it. I bought it because every time I look at it, I feel something." For the next 10 years, Robert worked overtime shifts to fund the restoration. He'd come home exhausted from his regular job, eat dinner with the kids and me, then disappear into the garage until midnight. Tyler, just 7 when we got the car, would sit on an overturned bucket, handing Robert tools and absorbing everything about that Shelby. The restoration became a family affair. Emma, our daughter, would bring her homework to the garage, reading aloud from her history textbook while Robert worked. I'd bring out thermoses of coffee and take pictures to document the progress. It was slow work, methodical, but Robert never rushed. When he finally turned the key and that engine roared to life in 1995, we all cheered like we'd witnessed a miracle. The metallic blue paint gleamed under our garage lights. Tyler, by then a teenager, ran his hand reverently along the hood. "This car will outlive me," Robert said that night, "and when it does, it stays in the family." That's non-negotiable. Some things aren't meant to be sold. We took that car everywhere. Summer road trips along coastal highways, weekend drives to nowhere in particular. Car shows where Robert would stand proudly beside it, answering questions for hours. The Shelby wasn't just transportation, it was a member of our family. When Robert was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2019, one of his first concerns was the car. I found him in the garage late one night, not working on it, just sitting in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel. "I need you to promise me something," he said when I slid into the passenger seat beside him. "This car stays with us, with the family. Tyler loves it almost as much as I do. He'll take care of it." 3 weeks before he died, Robert had Tyler promise him directly. I was there, watching my son hold his father's thin hand, tears in both their eyes. "I promise, Dad, the Shelby stays in the family." After Robert passed, I maintained the car as best I could. I learned how to check the oil, keep the battery charged, start it regularly to keep the engine healthy. Tyler would visit occasionally from Chicago, take it for a drive, and reminisce about his father. Those moments felt sacred, like Robert was still with us in some small way. The car became my last physical connection to my husband. Sometimes I'd just sit in it, inhaling the scent of leather and the faint trace of Robert's aftershave that somehow lingered. I'd close my eyes and remember him polishing the chrome until it gleamed, or explaining the mechanics of the engine to our grandchildren. That's what Tyler sold without my knowledge or consent. Not just a valuable classic car, but our family history, Robert's legacy, and my most tangible connection to the man I'd loved for 43 years. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Tyler's number. It was 3 a.m. in Paris, but I didn't care. The phone rang 4 times before he answered, his voice thick with sleep. "Mom? What's wrong? Is it Emma?" "The Shelby is gone, Tyler." Charlie from Classic Auto called. He said someone sold it to him. He said it was you. There was a long pause, then a rustling sound like he was sitting up in bed. Oh, yeah, about that. I was going to tell you when we got back. The casual tone in his voice made my blood pressure spike. You were going to tell me? Tyler, that car wasn't yours to sell. Technically it was, he said, sounding more awake now. Dad left it to the family, not just to you. And I'm family. I heard Jessica's voice in the background asking what was going on. Tyler covered the phone, but I could still hear him explaining. Then Jessica took the phone. Martha, hi. I'm so sorry about the timing, but you should see Paris. Tyler surprised me for our anniversary. We're staying at this gorgeous hotel near the Eiffel Tower. The bathroom is bigger than our first apartment. I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. Jessica, did you know where the money came from for this trip? Tyler said it was from his bonus, she said, her voice faltering slightly. There was no bonus. He sold his father's Shelby. The car Robert made him promise to keep in the family. Oh, Jessica said quietly. I didn't. Hold on, Tyler wants to talk to you. Tyler came back on the line. Mom, you're making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. It's just a car. Just a car? My voice cracked. Your father spent a decade restoring that just a car. It was his dying wish that it stay in the family. How could you break that promise? Dad would have wanted us to enjoy life, Tyler said with that same dismissive tone he'd used since adolescence when caught doing something wrong. He wouldn't want that car sitting in a garage collecting dust. Jessica and I needed this trip. Things have been stressful at work. How did you even do it? The title was in my name. Another pause. I still have power of attorney from when you were in the hospital last year. I just used that to transfer the title. The betrayal cut deeper. That power of attorney was for emergency medical decisions while I recovered from hip surgery. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine my son would use it to steal from me. Tyler Wilson, what you've done is illegal. It's fraud. Come on, Mom. It's not like that. Look, I'll bring you back something nice from Paris. Maybe one of those fancy scarves you like. I nearly threw the phone across the room. A scarf to replace Robert's Shelby? In that moment, I saw Tyler clearly for perhaps the first time in his life. This wasn't new behavior. It was just the most egregious example of a pattern I'd been ignoring for decades. There was the time he borrowed my jewelry to buy concert tickets in high school. The loan from his sister's college fund he never repaid. The money that disappeared from Robert's wallet during his final illness. I'd made excuses for him every time, just as Robert had before me. I want you to make this right, I said finally. I don't know how, but you need to fix this. We'll talk when I get back, Tyler said. I promise I'll make it up to you. After we hung up, I sat in the empty garage for an hour, staring at the space where the Shelby should have been. Then I called Emma. My daughter answered on the first ring, already heading to her car to come over. She'd always been the responsible one, the one who stayed nearby after Robert died, the one who checked on me daily. He's gone too far this time, Mom, Emma said when I explained what happened. This isn't something we can sweep under the rug. Looking at my daughter's determined face, so like her father's, I knew she was right. This time, there would be consequences. Emma arrived 20 minutes later, with coffee and a legal pad. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where our family had gathered for thousands of meals over 39 years. Let's talk about Tyler, she said gently. The real Tyler, not the one we've been making excuses for all these years. Our family dynamics weren't unusual, I suppose. Robert and I met in college, married young, had Tyler 2 years later, then Emma 2 years after that. We were solidly middle class, with Robert's engineering job providing stability and my part-time work as a school librarian adding extra for vacations and college funds. Tyler was our firstborn, a beautiful baby with Robert's blue eyes and my dark hair. From the beginning, he had a charm about him that made people fall in love. His teachers would start parent-teacher conferences complaining about his behavior, then somehow end up laughing about his antics. He'd flash that smile, and all was forgiven. Robert adored him. When Tyler broke a neighbor's window playing baseball, Robert paid for the repair without making Tyler work it off. When Tyler crashed the family car at 16, Robert bought him another one. Boys will be boys, he'd say, ruffling Tyler's hair. Emma was different. Quieter, more responsible, always trying to please. She got straight. Az kept her room tidy, saved her allowance. While Tyler got attention for being charismatic and occasionally troublesome, Emma blended into the background, reliable as the sunrise. Dad enabled him, Emma said now, stirring her coffee. And after Dad died, you kept doing it. I wanted to deny it, but she was right. When Tyler dropped out of college with 1 semester left, claiming it was stifling his creativity, Robert paid for his apartment while he found himself. When Tyler got fired from 3 jobs in 2 years for tardiness, Robert helped him start a business that failed within 18 months. Your brother just needs to find his path, Robert would tell Emma when she expressed frustration. That business failure was particularly painful. Robert had invested $50,000 from his 401k, money that should have been for our retirement. Tyler had promised to pay it back with interest, but not a dime ever materialized. Jessica entered the picture 8 years ago. Beautiful, ambitious, with expensive taste and a marketing job that couldn't possibly fund it. Within 6 months of meeting her, Tyler had moved to Chicago to be where the action is. They married in a lavish ceremony that Robert and I largely paid for, despite my concerns about the cost. Remember their wedding? Emma asked. $30,000 for 1 day, and Tyler acted like we were being stingy. I nodded, remembering how Tyler had complained that his friends had bigger weddings, better honeymoons. And then they bought that house they couldn't afford, Emma continued, with Dad co-signing the loan. The pattern was clear. Tyler took and took, always with the expectation that his parents would bail him out. Even after Robert died, leaving me with a decent insurance policy, but not enough for extravagance, Tyler's expectations hadn't changed. Last Christmas, I said slowly, Tyler asked if he could borrow against my life insurance, said he had an investment opportunity that couldn't wait. Emma's eyes widened. You didn't. No, I said. For once, I said no. He didn't speak to me for 2 months afterward. We sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about the same thing. How different Tyler was from the values Robert and I had tried to instill in our children. He forged documents to sell Dad's car, Emma said finally. That's not just selfish, Mom. That's criminal. The word hung in the air between us. Criminal. My son, Robert's golden boy, had committed fraud to fund a luxury vacation, and I had to decide what to do about it. Charlie at the dealership, I said suddenly. He called me for a reason. I need to talk to him. The next morning, I drove to Classic Auto Specialists, the vintage car dealership where the Shelby had ended up. The showroom was filled with gleaming vehicles from every era, each one meticulously restored and displayed like museum pieces. In another context, I might have appreciated their beauty. Charlie Peterson met me at the door. He'd been Robert's friend for 30 years, bonding over their shared love of classic American cars. A tall man with a gray beard and kind eyes, Charlie had spoken at Robert's funeral about their friendship. Martha, he said, enveloping me in a hug. I'm so sorry about this mess. Thank you for calling me, I said. I wouldn't have known otherwise until Tyler got back from Paris. Charlie led me to his office, a space decorated with vintage automobile advertisements and photos of classic cars. On one wall hung a picture of Robert standing proudly beside the Shelby at a car show, his arm around Tyler. My heart contracted at the sight. I knew something was off when Tyler brought in the car, Charlie said, settling behind his desk. Robert had told me many times that Shelby would stay in your family forever. When Tyler showed up saying you'd decided to sell, it didn't sound right. It wasn't right, I confirmed. I had no idea until your call. Charlie nodded grimly. I suspected as much. That's why I called you right after the deal was done. But legally, my hands were tied. The paperwork looked legitimate. May I see it? I asked. Charlie pulled out a folder and spread the documents across his desk. There was the title transfer, with what appeared to be my signature. The power of attorney form also signed by me, a bill of sale. This isn't my signature, I said, pointing to the transfer document. Tyler forged it. Charlie sighed. That's fraud, Martha. Plain and simple. How much? I asked. How much did he get for the car? Charlie hesitated. Martha, that Shelby in that condition could easily fetch $220,000 to the right buyer, possibly more. And what did Tyler get? He took $130,000, said he needed cash immediately for an emergency. I felt sick. Tyler had not only stolen the car and forged my signature, but he'd also sold it for far below its value just to get quick money for a Paris vacation. The buyer already picked it up, Charlie continued. A collector from California. He'd been looking for a Shelby like that for years. Can the sale be reversed? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Charlie shook his head. Not easily, no. The new owner purchased in good faith. He didn't know about the fraud. I nodded, staring at the photo of Robert and the Shelby. Something inside me hardened with resolve. Martha, Charlie said gently, this is a serious situation. What Tyler did isn't just wrong, it's illegal. Have you considered your next steps? I looked at Charlie, at the concern in his eyes, and I thought about what Robert would have wanted. Not the car, but integrity, honesty, accountability. I think I need to speak with a lawyer, I said finally. Charlie reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. I'll help however I can. That car meant everything to Robert, and I know what it meant to you. As I was leaving, Charlie called me back. Martha, wait, there's something else. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small velvet bag. Robert left this with me years ago, said if anything ever happened to the car, I should give this to you. Inside was a silver keychain with the Shelby Cobra emblem and our wedding date engraved on the back. He knew how much you loved that car too, Charlie said softly. I clutched the keychain in my palm, feeling its weight. If you've ever lost something that connected you to someone you've loved and lost, you know the ache I felt in that moment. It's like losing them all over again. Before I share what happened next in this painful journey, I'd love to know if any of you have faced betrayal from those closest to you. How did you balance family loyalty with self-respect? Sometimes the hardest decisions involve the people we love most. If this story resonates with you, please consider subscribing to hear more about how life's most difficult challenges often come from unexpected places. 2 days later, I found myself sitting across from Patricia Thompson, our family attorney who had handled Robert's will and our estate planning. Her office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, with wide windows and creaking hardwood floors. She'd known our family for 20 years and had drafted the power of attorney document that Tyler had abused. Martha, she said after I explained the situation, I'm so sorry this has happened. Let's talk about your options. Patricia pulled out a copy of Robert's will from her files. First, let's review what Robert actually stipulated about the Shelby. She flipped to a specific page and read aloud, My 1,967 Shelby GT500 shall remain in the family's possession, to be maintained and preserved as part of my legacy to my children and grandchildren. It is my express wish that this vehicle never be sold outside the family. That seems clear, I said. It is, Patricia confirmed, but legally, it's more complicated. This is what we call a precatory provision, essentially, a wish or recommendation rather than a binding condition. Robert expressed his desire for the car to stay in the family, but he didn't create a formal trust or legal mechanism to enforce it. My heart sank. So Tyler didn't violate the will by selling it? From a strictly legal standpoint regarding the will? No. But, she raised a finger, the fraud and forgery are entirely different matters. Using the power of attorney for purposes outside its scope and forging your signature are criminal offenses. Patricia spread out copies of the documents Charlie had provided. This power of attorney, she said, pointing to the document, was specifically for healthcare decisions during your recovery from hip surgery last year. It expired 3 months after it was signed. Even if it were still valid, it wouldn't grant Tyler authority to sell your property for his personal benefit. What are my options? I asked. You have several, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair. First, you could file a police report for fraud and forgery. That would likely result in criminal charges against Tyler. The thought made me physically ill. My son, facing criminal charges, possibly jail time. Second, she continued, you could pursue civil litigation against Tyler to recover the value of the car or force him to try to get it back. And third, you could handle this as a family matter. Confront Tyler, demand restitution, but keep the legal system out of it. She paused. That's the option most families prefer initially, but it only works if the offending party acknowledges their wrongdoing and is willing to make amends. I thought about Tyler's dismissive attitude on the phone, his casual betrayal of his father's dying wish. What would happen to Tyler if I pursued criminal charges? Patricia didn't sugarcoat it. Fraud and forgery involving this amount of money are felonies. He could face significant fines and potentially prison time, though first-time offenders often receive probation. But he would have a permanent criminal record, which could impact his employment prospects and more. I stared out the window at an old oak tree in the yard, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. Robert had always believed in second chances, in family loyalty above all else. But he also believed in consequences for actions. "I need to think about this," I said finally. "And I need to talk to Emma." "Of course," Patricia said. "But Martha, gather evidence now, regardless of what you decide to do later. Get statements from Charlie, copies of all the documentation. If Tyler used electronic means for any of this emails, text messages, preserve those too." As I stood to leave, Patricia added, "One more thing, Martha. Check your other assets. If Tyler was willing to take the car, he may have accessed other accounts or properties as well." That hadn't occurred to me. The thought that this might not be an isolated incident made my knees weak. "Whatever you decide," Patricia said, walking me to the door, "remember that you're not responsible for Tyler's actions. You're only responsible for your response to them." I called Emma from the parking lot, asking her to meet me at my house. This wasn't a decision I could make alone. Emma arrived with takeout from my favorite deli and a determined look on her face. We spread the legal documents across the dining room table, the same table where we'd celebrated birthdays, Thanksgivings, and quiet Tuesday dinners as a family. "He needs to face consequences, Mom," Emma said, after I explained my options. "This isn't like when he was 16 and took money from your purse. This is serious." "He's still your brother," I reminded her. "And my son." "Yes," she agreed, "which is why this is so hard. But ask yourself, if Tyler were someone else's son who did this to another family, what would you think they should do?" I knew the answer immediately. If this were someone else's story, I'd be outraged on their behalf. I'd want justice. "I'll give him one chance," I decided. "One opportunity to make this right when he returns. If he refuses or makes excuses, then we'll pursue legal action." Emma nodded, looking relieved that I wasn't simply going to let it go as I had so many times before. "But Mom," she added gently, "we need to be prepared for the likelihood that he won't take responsibility. That's not who Tyler has ever been." As much as it hurt to admit, I knew she was right. Tyler and Jessica returned from Paris a week later, tanned and laden with shopping bags. At my insistence, they came directly to my house for what Tyler assumed would be a welcome home dinner. Emma and her husband Dave were already there when they arrived, helping me prepare a meal that none of us really had the appetite for. "Mom!" Tyler exclaimed, sweeping into the house with his arms open. "Paris was incredible. Wait until you see what we brought you." He handed me a small gift bag containing a silk scarf with the Eiffel Tower printed on it. The price tag had been removed, but I recognized the brand as one that typically cost several $100s, a fraction of what the Shelby was worth. A token to replace a legacy. "Thank you," I said, setting it aside without comment. Jessica was already pulling out her phone. "You have to see our photos. The hotel was to die for. And the food. Tyler took me to this restaurant where the dessert had actual gold leaf on it." Emma shot me a look that clearly said, "Are you hearing this?" But I kept my expression neutral as we moved to the dining room. Tyler launched into stories about their trip, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. "The shopping on the Champs-Élysées is unbelievable," Jessica gushed. "Tyler said life's too short not to enjoy the finer things." "Life is short," I agreed, my voice steady. "Your father-in-law certainly discovered that." Tyler's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "Dad would have loved Paris. Remember how he always talked about taking you to Europe after retirement, Mom? That was the opening I needed." Yes, he did. Instead, he spent his last months fighting cancer and making sure his affairs were in order. "Including the Shelby GT500 that you sold." The room went silent. Jessica's hand, reaching for her wine glass, froze mid-air. "Mom," Tyler started, his tone placating, "I told you we'd discuss that when I got back." "We're discussing it now," I said, sliding a folder across the table toward him. "These are copies of the documents you forged. My signature on the title transfer. The expired power of attorney you used fraudulently." Jessica turned to Tyler, her expression confused. "What is she talking about? You said your mom agreed to sell the car." "It's complicated," Tyler muttered. "Actually, It's quite simple, Emma interjected. Tyler stole Dad's car by forging Mom's signature and sold it to fund your Paris vacation. Jessica's face drained of color. Is that true? They're making it sound worse than it is, Tyler insisted, his charm giving way to defensiveness. The car was just sitting there. Dad left it to the family, not just to Mom. I took a deep breath. Tyler, your father made you promise to keep that car in the family. It was one of his last requests. Dad's gone, Mom. He doesn't care about material things anymore, Tyler snapped. The callousness of his response stunned everyone at the table. This isn't just about the car, I said, my voice trembling despite my best efforts. It's about integrity, honesty, the values your father and I tried to teach you. Oh, here we go. Tyler rolled his eyes. Another lecture about values while you sit in the past, clinging to an old car instead of living your life. Emma slammed her hand on the table. That's enough, Tyler. You committed fraud. You stole from your own mother. This isn't about Mom living in the past. It's about you being a thief. I'm not a thief, Tyler shouted. It's a family car, and I'm family. I needed the money, and the car was just collecting dust. For what? Dave asked quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since Tyler and Jessica arrived. What was so important that you needed to sell your dad's prized possession and lie about it? Tyler faltered, glancing at Jessica, who was staring at her plate. We deserved that trip, he finally said. I work hard. Jessica wanted to see Paris for our anniversary. What's wrong with wanting nice things? Nothing, I replied. If you pay for them honestly. Tyler, I'm giving you one chance to make this right. Make it right how? He scoffed. The car's gone, Mom. Sold to some collector in California. What do you expect me to do? First, admit what you did was wrong, I said. Second, return the money. Tyler laughed bitterly. Return the money? We spent most of it already. The trip, shopping, I put some into investments. What investments? Emma interrupted. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. That's my business. It's Mom's business too, since it was her car you sold, Emma countered. The conversation devolved from there. Tyler moved from denial to blame, accusing me of loving the car more than him, of always favoring Emma, of not understanding the pressure he was under. Jessica sat in stunned silence, occasionally trying to calm Tyler down, but mostly looking horrified as the truth unfolded. Your father would be so disappointed, I said finally, my voice quiet but firm. Don't bring Dad into this, Tyler shouted, standing up so abruptly his chair fell backward. You don't get to use him against me. He's not here, and that car was the only thing of value he left. Why shouldn't I benefit from it? Because it wasn't yours, I said simply. And because you promised him. Promises to dead people don't matter, Tyler spat, grabbing his jacket. Come on, Jessica. We're leaving. Jessica hesitated, looking between Tyler and me with tears in her eyes. Tyler, maybe we should— Now, Jessica, he demanded. As they headed for the door, I called after him. Tyler, if you walk out now without making this right, I'll have no choice but to pursue legal action. He turned, his face contorted with anger and something else, fear. Perhaps. You wouldn't dare. I'm your son. Yes, you are, I agreed sadly. Which makes this all the more heartbreaking. The door slammed behind them, leaving Emma, Dave, and me sitting in silence around a table of untouched food. Well, Dave said finally, that could have gone better. Emma reached over and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, Mom. You gave him a chance. I nodded, feeling hollow. Now we see if he takes it. But in my heart, I already knew the answer. Tyler didn't call the next day, or the day after that. Through Emma, I learned that he and Jessica were fighting constantly, with Jessica horrified by what Tyler had done and Tyler defensive and angry. A week passed with no word from my son, no attempt to make amends. Meanwhile, Charlie from Classic Auto had been working behind the scenes to locate the Shelby's new owner. His name is Lawrence Mercer, Charlie told me over the phone. Successful tech entrepreneur, serious car collector based in San Jose. He's got about 30 classic cars in his collection. Have you spoken to him? I asked, hope rising despite my efforts to stay realistic. Briefly, Charlie said. I explained the situation without going into detail about the fraud. Just said there had been a family miscommunication about the sale. He was sympathetic but not particularly interested in returning the car. What if I spoke to him directly? I suggested. Explained what really happened? Charlie hesitated. It's worth a try. He's invited us to come see his collection if we're ever in California. Said the Shelby has a good home. That's how, 3 weeks after discovering the theft, Emma and I found ourselves on a flight to San Francisco. Dave had offered to come along for support, but Emma thought it would be better if it was just family. More personal that way, she'd said. Lawrence Mercer's home was exactly what you'd expect from a wealthy tech entrepreneur. A sprawling modern mansion perched on a hillside with views of the bay. The garage, or rather, the climate-controlled showroom, was larger than my entire house. Mercer himself was surprisingly down to earth for someone so wealthy, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a genuine enthusiasm for automobiles. He greeted us warmly and led us into his collection. I understand there's been some family drama around the Shelby, he said as we walked past rows of immaculate vintage cars. Charlie didn't give me all the details, but I gathered it wasn't supposed to be sold. My late husband restored it, I explained. He made our son promise to keep it in the family. My son broke that promise without my knowledge or consent. Mercer nodded thoughtfully. That's unfortunate. Family disputes over inheritances can be brutal. This wasn't a dispute, Emma clarified. It was theft. My brother forged our mother's signature to sell the car. Mercer's eyebrows shot up. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact, I said. I have the documentation to prove it. We reached the end of the row, and there it was, Robert's Shelby, gleaming under perfect lighting, looking exactly as it had in our garage. The sight of it made my chest tight. She's a beauty, Mercer said, genuine appreciation in his voice. One of the finest examples I've seen. Your husband did incredible work. Mr. Mercer, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, I know you purchased the car in good faith, but it was stolen from my family through fraud. Is there any way we could discuss you returning it? We would reimburse you, of course. Mercer's expression was sympathetic, but firm. Mrs. Wilson, I understand your attachment to the vehicle, and I'm truly sorry for how it came into my possession, but I purchased it legally from a licensed dealer. If fraud was involved, that's between you, your son, and possibly the dealership. The dealership didn't know either, Emma said. My brother deceived everyone. Again, I'm sorry to hear that, Mercer said. Have you considered legal action against your son? We're exploring our options, I said, not wanting to discuss family matters with a stranger. But the car has sentimental value that can't be replaced. My husband spent a decade restoring it. Mercer was quiet for a moment, then sighed. I collect these cars because each one has a story. Clearly, this one has more of a story than I realized. He paused. I can't promise anything, but I'll think about what you've said. In the meantime, would you like some time with the car? To say goodbye, if nothing else? It wasn't the answer I'd hoped for, but it was better than an outright refusal. Yes, I would. Thank you. Mercer discreetly stepped away, giving me a moment alone with the Shelby. Emma squeezed my hand and followed him, leaving me with the last tangible piece of Robert's passion. I ran my hand along the cool metal of the hood, remembering Robert doing the same countless times. I opened the driver's door and slid behind the wheel, inhaling the familiar scent of leather and history. The steering wheel felt smooth beneath my fingers, worn to a perfect patina by Robert's hands. Almost without thinking, I opened the glove compartment. Robert had always kept the car's documentation there, along with a small logbook where he recorded maintenance and special drives. To my surprise, the logbook was still there. As I flipped through it, something fell into my lap, a sealed envelope with my name written in Robert's handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened it. Inside was a note, dated a month before he died. Martha, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and something has happened to bring you to this car without me. Maybe it's been years, maybe just days. Either way, I wanted you to know that of all the things I've created or restored in my life, our family is what I'm most proud of. The Shelby is just metal and rubber and paint. It's the love we shared that matters. Whatever happens to this car, our love outlasts it. Always yours, Robert. Tears streamed down my face as I clutched the note to my chest. When Emma returned a few minutes later, I showed it to her. Dad always knew what we needed to hear, she said softly, wiping away her own tears. When we rejoined Mercer, he could tell we'd had an emotional moment but didn't pry. Thank you for letting us see the car, I said. It means more than you know. I'll be in touch in a few days, Mercer promised as we prepared to leave. Whatever happens, I want you to know the car will be respected and preserved. That much I can guarantee. On the flight home, I felt strangely peaceful despite not getting the resolution I'd hoped for. The note from Robert had shifted something in me. The car was important, yes, but it wasn't everything. It wasn't Robert. It wasn't our love. What now? Emma asked as our plane descended toward home. Now we deal with Tyler, I said, my resolve strengthened. Your father believed in our family above all else. That includes holding each other accountable. The day after our return from California, I received a voicemail from Patricia Thompson, our attorney. Martha, please call me immediately. There's been a development regarding your house. A chill ran through me as I returned the call. Martha, Patricia said when she answered, have you checked your mail recently? Or your bank statements? No, we just got back from California last night. Why? I received a notification that a second mortgage has been taken out on your house. The paperwork came to my office because I'm still listed as your attorney of record on property matters. My grip on the phone tightened. That's impossible. I didn't take out any loan. The mortgage was executed 3 weeks ago, Patricia continued, her voice grave. Using the same power of attorney and forged signatures as the car sale. The room seemed to tilt. How much? I managed to ask. 17,500美元. I sank into a chair, trying to comprehend what was happening. Tyler hadn't just taken the car. He'd mortgaged my home, the home that was fully paid off, the home where I'd raised my children and planned to live out my retirement years. Martha, are you still there? Yes, I whispered. What do I do? File a police report immediately, Patricia said firmly. This goes beyond family drama now. This is serious fraud involving hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've already contacted the mortgage company to alert them to the situation, but you need to make an official report. After hanging up, I sat frozen for several minutes, then called Emma. She arrived within half an hour, Dave in tow, both of them ashen-faced when I explained what Patricia had told me. This changes everything, Emma said. Mom, Tyler's not just being selfish, he's systematically stealing from you. Dave, usually the peacemaker, was uncharacteristically blunt. You need to call the police. Today, I nodded, numb with shock and betrayal. I know. Before I could make the call, my phone rang. It was Jessica, her voice tearful and rushed. Martha, I didn't know about any of this, I swear. The car, yes, but not how Tyler got it, and definitely not the mortgage. Jessica, slow down. What's happening? Tyler's been gambling, she blurted out. For years. Online poker, sports betting, casinos when he travels for work. He's in deep, Martha. The Paris trip wasn't just an anniversary celebration. He said we needed to get away for a while because some people were looking for him. The pieces started falling into place. The urgent need for cash. The quick sale of the Shelby below market value. The second mortgage. How bad is it? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Bad, Jessica admitted. Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. I found credit card statements hidden in his office. He's been taking out cash advances, opening new cards in both our names. I confronted him last night, and he didn't even deny it. Just said he had a system and would win it all back soon. The classic words of every gambling addict. A system. The big win just around the corner. Where is he now? I asked. I don't know, Jessica said, her voice breaking. He left last night after our fight. His phone is going straight to voicemail. I'm scared, Martha. I don't know what to do. After assuring Jessica we'd figure this out together, I hung up and relayed the conversation to Emma and Dave. So it's even worse than we thought, Emma said quietly. He's not just selfish and entitled, he's an addict. The realization did nothing to lessen the betrayal, but it did help explain the escalation from smaller deceits to major fraud. Tyler wasn't just funding a luxury lifestyle. He was feeding an addiction that had spiraled completely out of control. Dave, ever practical, brought us back to immediate concerns. Addiction or not, you need to protect yourself, Martha. That starts with filing a police report. And so, at 65, I found myself sitting across from a detective in the financial crimes unit, reporting my own son for fraud and forgery. I provided the forged documents, statements from Charlie at the dealership, and details about the unauthorized mortgage. Mrs. Wilson, the detective said gently after taking my statement, I understand how difficult this must be. Unfortunately, these cases involving family members are more common than you might think. What happens now? I asked. We'll open an investigation. Given the evidence you've provided, we'll likely be issuing a warrant for your son's arrest on multiple felony charges. The words hit me like physical blows. Warrant, arrest, felony, my son, Robert's son, a criminal. Is there any other way? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The crimes involved are serious, the detective explained. Multiple instances of fraud and forgery, identity theft, financial elder abuse. The district attorney takes these cases very seriously. I nodded, feeling every one of my 65 years. I understand. When I got home, Emma had already changed all my passwords, placed a freeze on my credit, and contacted the bank to flag my accounts for suspicious activity. She'd also called a locksmith to change the locks, just in case. I never thought it would come to this, I said as we sat together in the living room, surrounded by family photos including many of Tyler graduating high school, fishing with Robert, his wedding day with Jessica. None of us did, Emma replied, taking my hand. But Tyler made his choices. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Tyler. They're looking for me, he said without preamble, his voice frantic. There's a warrant, Mom. How could you do this to me? Tyler, I said, my heart breaking despite everything. You did this to yourself. You stole from me. You mortgaged my house without my knowledge. I was going to pay it back, he insisted. I just needed some time to turn things around. One big win and— Stop, I interrupted. Jessica told me everything about the gambling. You need help, Tyler. Professional help. What I need is for my mother not to throw me to the wolves, he shouted. Dad would have never done this to me. The mention of Robert steeled my resolve. Your father believed in integrity above all else. He would be heartbroken by what you've done, but he would want you to face the consequences and get the help you need. So that's it? You're just going to let them arrest me? I didn't let them do anything. You committed fraud, Tyler. Multiple times. I can't protect you from this, and I won't try to. There was a long silence, then a defeated sigh. What should I do? For the first time in the conversation, I heard a glimmer of the son I raised, the boy who would look to me for guidance when he'd made a mistake. Turn yourself in, I said gently. Get a lawyer, tell the truth, and get help for the gambling. 3 hours later, Tyler surrendered to authorities at the county courthouse, accompanied by an attorney Patricia had recommended. He was booked, processed, and released on bail paid by Jessica's parents, with conditions including no gambling and no leaving the state. The road ahead would be long and difficult for all of us, but for the first time, I felt like we were moving in the right direction. 6 months passed, each day bringing new challenges but also small steps toward healing. I stood on the courthouse steps beside Emma, watching Tyler emerge with his attorney after accepting a plea deal. Felony charges reduced to misdemeanors, restitution payments, 3 years probation, and mandatory gambling addiction treatment. Tyler looked different, thinner, humbler, the cocky charm replaced by a quieter demeanor. The past months had changed him, as they had all of us. Jessica had filed for divorce after discovering even more gambling debts and lies. She'd been kind throughout the process, maintaining a relationship with me and Emma despite the end of her marriage to Tyler. I couldn't blame her for leaving. Trust, once shattered so completely, is nearly impossible to rebuild. It's over, Tyler said as he joined us. At least the legal part. I nodded, unsure what to say. Our relationship had fundamentally changed. The unconditional support and endless forgiveness I'd once offered had been replaced by cautious optimism and clear boundaries. It was healthier for both of us, but the transition had been painful. Your father would be proud of you for taking responsibility, I said finally. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. I doubt that, but thanks for saying it. As we walked to the parking lot, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Lawrence Mercer, the California collector who had purchased the Shelby. We'd spoken several times since my visit to his home, developing an unexpected friendship based on our shared appreciation for Robert's craftsmanship. Martha, he said when I answered, I've been thinking about our conversations. The Shelby is a magnificent machine, but it belongs in your family. I'd like to sell it back to you at my purchase price. No premium. My free hand flew to my mouth in shock. Lawrence, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he chuckled. The car has been talking to me, telling me it wants to go home. Yes, I said immediately. Absolutely yes. When I explained the call to Tyler and Emma, Tyler's face crumpled. I don't deserve this, he whispered. It's not about deserving, I told him. It's about second chances and doing better. 2 weeks later, Charlie from Classic Auto helped arrange the transport of the Shelby back to my garage. Standing beside it, running my hand along its gleaming paint, I felt Robert's presence more strongly than I had in years. But something had changed in me. The car, while beautiful and filled with memories, no longer held the same grip on my heart. I'd learned that objects, even precious ones, were just that, objects. The real legacy was in the values Robert and I had tried to instill in our children, the love we'd shared, and the family bonds that could bend but never truly break. After much thought and consultation with Emma, I made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. I decided to sell the Shelby properly this time, with full documentation and for its true value. Charlie helped find the perfect buyer, another restorer who appreciated the car's history and Robert's craftsmanship. The proceeds would serve multiple purposes: securing my retirement, helping Tyler with his gambling addiction treatment, and establishing a foundation in Robert's name to support vocational training for young people interested in auto restoration. The day the new owner came to pick up the car, I sat in the driver's seat one last time, remembering all the moments it had witnessed. Then I handed over the keys, not with grief but with peace. Robert's note had been right. Our love outlasted the car. Tyler's journey to recovery was ongoing, with both setbacks and progress. He'd moved into a small apartment, taken a job at an auto parts store, a nod to his father's passion, and attended both therapy and Gamblers Anonymous meetings regularly. Our relationship was slowly mending, built now on honesty rather than enabling. Emma had been my rock throughout the ordeal, her steady presence a constant reminder of the values Robert and I had successfully passed down to at least one of our children. She and Dave had recently announced they were expecting their first child, a new generation that would hear stories about their grandfather's Shelby, and, more importantly, about his integrity and passion. As for me, I discovered an unexpected calling. Through Charlie, I met other widows who had inherited their husbands' classic cars with no knowledge of how to maintain them. We formed a group, the Gear Girls. We called ourselves with self-deprecating humor, meeting monthly to learn basic maintenance, share stories, and support each other through grief and new beginnings. Life takes unexpected turns, often painful ones. My son selling Robert's car had felt like the ultimate betrayal, but it became the catalyst for necessary change. Sometimes the things we cling to most tightly are the very things we need to release. If there's one lesson I've learned from this journey, it's that true family legacy isn't found in objects, but in values, integrity, accountability, forgiveness, and growth. Robert understood this all along, as his note in the glove compartment had revealed. In losing the car and finding it again, only to let it go on my own terms, I discovered what he had always known. Love is the only possession truly worth keeping. I'd love to hear your thoughts on family betrayal and forgiveness. Have you ever had to hold a loved one accountable for their actions? Did it change your relationship for better or worse? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to hear more tales of family challenges and resilience. Life teaches us its most valuable lessons through our hardest moments. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember that sometimes letting go of what we thought we needed makes room for what truly matters. Like, subscribe, and share if you found value in my story. There's healing in knowing we're not alone in our struggles.